Miller. Now, Miller was a Baptist preacher. And by the way, he did not want to preach, but God placed it in his heart for him to preach. Actually, he records in his, rather a friend of his called Joshua Himes, records in his memoirs that a voice came, told him over hundreds of times to go and preach what he had discovered in God's word. And by the way, when you think about William Miller and the mistake that he made, he made a mistake which only a remarkable Bible student can make. If you are an engineer, you cannot make a doctor's mistake. What are you doing with bodies, isn't it? Wewe kazi yako ni chuma, mawe, michoro, so on and so forth. But William Miller, the mistake that he made was a mistake that only a remarkable Bible student can make. Now, before actually he came to accept God's word, let me just give you a little bit of history. He had 13 brothers and sisters, grew up in a farm in America. He had a lot of interest in reading books. Actually, he would walk kilometers just to find neighbors who had books that he could borrow for reading. And there's a story concerning him and his dad. He was, families were large then, as perhaps in our African context, we can also understand people needed labor for the farms. But Miller, in as much as he loved working on the farm, he also wanted to develop his mind. And so he got an interest in reading. And one night, his father woke up and he thought the house was on fire, because what people used to use then back for reading were things called pine knots, just some form of fuel that when it burned, it used to burn with bright yellow color. So his father woke up suddenly in the middle of the night, and then he saw some bright yellow light and flames, and he thought the house was on fire. So he went downstairs and he found his son Miller reading. And of course, he says that his father gave him a thrashing because instead of resting to be ready for the farm tomorrow, he was busy, using that time in reading. And so he actually promised to be more careful next time, So he didn't stop reading. He continued. And actually it is during this particular time of his, quest for book knowledge that he interacted with deistic literature. And we're going to talk about that. William Miller was a deist. A deist is someone who believes, yes, the world was created by a supernatural being. There is a creator. But this creator does not intervene in the affairs of men. There is a creator, but he is indifferent to the wants of men. He created the world and simply left it to run its own course. He's like an absentee landlord. So Miller interacted with deistic literature. So fast forward, even before fast forwarding, even as a young boy, there was something just, he had an inclination for religion, in the sense that he used to make tough rules. Whenever he made a mistake, he used to make tough rules to punish himself. He was seeking peace. Fast forward, he is an adult. He marries a lady called Lucy. And he loves spending time in the library. And in the library, of course, he would interact with more deistic literature. And it's in the library and together with his friends that they used to meet to make fun of religion and current events. His uncle and grandfather were ministers. They were Baptist ministers. And Miller knew how to mimic these ministers. And so they would gather together as friends, and then he would mimic his grandfather and his uncle in their preaching. And they say that Miller was a likable man. And he had friends on either side of the political class then. People sensed that he was sincere, he was genuine. And as a deist, very much like was the thinking man's religion then. The president then, Thomas Jefferson, was a deist. And so, I want you to begin understanding that Miller, even in his beliefs, he was not